Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.
Welcome to the Spotlight, Kenneth Ikinwa.
Thanks for having me on.
One wonders how you weigh in on the debate that Nigeria may just be a country beyond redemption.
I completely beg to disagree with that position. In alignment with my position, I would say that people are entitled to their own opinions, but they are not entitled to the facts. Wherever we found ourselves in a country today has two angles to it. Problems that we have generated because of our inability to integrate, and problems that have also been imposed on us as a people because of the prospects and the potential that Nigeria actually as a country does have. So we need to have people that are futuristic, that are visionary, that understand this dichotomy of issues, and we'll come to a trialogue so that we can resolve the issues, identify the problems on ground, and then take decisive actions that would produce dependable solutions.
The traditional belief is for government and leaders to sound as optimistic as possible.
Well, I've not actually come across that statement by the former President General Mohammed Buhari. I think I would like to personally engage him, to be able to ascertain what he actually means by that. Nigeria is not in the worst of situations, even though we're not in the best of situations. We're not in the best of times, economically, politically, even socially. We seem to be more divided than we were ever united at any point in history. And if we look at the democratic transactions and trajectory in the last 15 years, I think solely the fact that we did not manage that transition properly, we would say is a catalyst that is responsible for why we are where we are today. But I will still say at any point in time and anywhere that the worst form of democracy still betters and trumps any other form of government, given the nature of our diversity as a people. I think we should be looking at prospects on how we can actually embrace our diversity, and much more than that, ensure, because the major problem we're having in this country is it boils down to the lack of distributive justice. And what does that mean? It means that there's no equity, there's no egalitarianism in the distribution of the commonwealth of this country. And that is why we have pockets of violence, pockets of struggles here and there, and pockets of people calling for self-determination. Because it's as though Nigeria was set up for a particular group of people, for a particular section of the country. Once we can address those issues, I wouldn't want to exaggerate, but I think Nigeria can possibly, in the nearest future, live what I call the utopian dream.
So this is you clearly alluding to the fact that the potential is there, but that the reality is not what it should be.
The potential is there, but the structure on ground does not match the potential, does not match our ability to appropriate the potential.
So is it a matter of process or structure?
You cannot have in fact, the structure exists so that processes can be enabled. So if the structure is wrong, the processes, the programs, the projects definitely cannot go right. Nothing seems to be going right. All right, if you talk about democracy and you look at even the military rule, if we want to be honest with ourselves, the military have done much more in terms of putting down infrastructure that continues to work since 1976, since 1970 in this country than even democratic governments have done. So what we find is that I think when we moved away from the structure that was bequeathed to us by the colonial masters, I hate to call them masters, I think that's where this problem began.
And what exactly are the indices of this structure?
We had a regional system of government. We had a regional system of government. We had 3 regions. I think somewhere in 1963 or thereabout, or 1958. I'm not a very good student of political history. We now had a Midwest. So we had technically four regions. And all of these regions were allowed to grow at their own pace, all right? And we can see what people like Obafemi Awolowo did in the Western region. We can see the kind of progress that was made in the Eastern region. Whatever happened in the Northern region, I can't actually explain or articulate, but what you would understand is that if we had maintained that structure, it would have been possible for people to grow at their own pace, and the development that we would have witnessed would have been 1,000, 3,000 million miles away from where we are today.
That structure didn't prevent the first military coup. It didn't prevent debated censuses. It didn't prevent Civil War, it didn't prevent a lot of things. Why is that Utopia we should be going back?
Well, I don't think we should focus on the things that were not prevented. I think we should focus on the fact that the situation that led, the issues that led to the Nigerian Civil War, the issues that led to a bogus census of 1963, and other things that made the great Chinua Achebe to describe in his epic book that there was a country. For me, as a student of history, I would say most of those issues were imposed on Nigeria externally, because they are external forces and factors that have multiple interests in Nigeria, economic interest, social interest, and other forms of interest that have kind of like circumvented our ability and our prospects and potential to develop. So I think that the onus now should come on us as a people to sit down and ask ourselves, what do we want from this entity called Nigeria? That should be the starting point.
Well, we've had 10 conferences. And we had a president who came and said he didn't care, he didn't give a hoot about the 2014 conference. 10 conferences and 20-something years of unbroken democracy, and yet we're not able to fashion ourselves from a country into a nation.
We are in this process of evolution. The number of conferences we've had will not determine the heights that we can attain if we cannot face the truth about the essence of our unity. Don't forget, we're a people of over 350 different ethnic groupings and lineages, different tongues and different tribes, all right? So for you to gather 350 different people together in one room and say be one, it's not something that will happen in one day, in 1 year. It probably will not even happen in 100 years. But don't forget, when we became a nation, you need to ask yourself, what was the literacy level of Nigerians? What was the literacy level of Nigeria? How many Nigerians, how many doctors did we have? How many urbanized city centers did we have? Okay, so we are able to now look at these issues now from more educated perspectives, and we can actually identify the pros and the cons of the matter, and fashion out dependable solutions and begin to think about a strategy. 60 years ago, there was no social media. 60 years ago, we would not have had this platform. 50 years ago, there probably was a democracy that did actually accentuate freedom of speech, but maybe not freedom after speech. So we should give it some time. But I also think, to be honest, and to sympathize with the soul of the country, Nigeria, that it is taking too much time. We can do things better, we can do things faster. But I also think that Nigeria has become an enterprise that certain people, certain persons are benefiting from. And that becomes the major bane of our advancement as a country.
Let's take this matter home. There is what has been innocuously called the national question. And it just doesn't go away. North-South dichotomy, tribal issues, citizens versus indigenes, religion and the state, and so on.
Simply put, we are better together than we are if we were not united or if we were divided.
And that's not wishful, just wishful.
It's not wishful, it's a truism, it's realistic, okay? And we have, before the advent of the colonialism, we have been living together as a people. We had empires that extended from Benin down to Lagos. We had empires that extended from, we had Oyo Empire, we had Borno Empire and all those empires. We all lived together as a people. And it's still very possible that we can live together as a people. And don't forget, I've said that the major factor in my view, I mean, in my scholarship over the years, that I see that is the major catalyst that has led to the division of Nigeria is externally imposed on Nigerians. Once we can sit down together, the 350 of us, once we can sit down together as a people and understand that, look, we can be a nation under God and under love, we can now settle those differences, do away with that angle of the political calculus, look at the resources, see how we can all benefit from it, and forge a movement as a people that could possibly turn out to be the greatest nation on earth.
Let me let you take this over yourself. You use the word forge. How do we begin to forge in very specific material terms? What is this forging about?
First of all, we need to have a common strategy. We need to have a common vision. I think Nigeria is a country that has no vision. My problem with the Founding Fathers was and remains the national question or the historical question. What was the vision of the Founding Fathers? We know and we have read and continue to read about the vision of the Founding Fathers of America. That vision is still, being fruitful, and people are enjoying it, and all of us want to go there and become American citizens. Most people, all right? We know of the vision of the Founding Fathers of Britain, of the countries in the British Isles. What is the common vision? So you find out that when there is no vision, the people can't forge ahead with any mission. That is the problem. That is the Nigerian problem. The second problem with Nigeria is that we have too many persons and individuals that are building cults around themselves. And once we can destroy these two pivots, the need for us to have a vision because we are visionless as a people, as a country, and the need for us to remove individuals that build personality cults about themselves rather than about the people and about our country, then we can actually forge ahead as a nation. That is my strong belief, and that is my strong advocacy. Let's craft a vision that factors in the 350 of us with our diversity and with our differences, and let us have individuals that are altruistic, and most importantly, let us give women a chance to play a very, very critical role in national development. There is no country in the history of the world that has attained great heights of development without practically, strategically, intentionally involving women. The more we continue to relegate women in our national vision and national strategy, the more we will make progress, ending up in nowhere as a country. Thanks for having me on.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.